Finding Home, a Duck Family's Journey. Once upon a time, in a bustling city, there lived a pair of mallard ducks named Mr. and Mrs. Mallard. They were a happy couple, always swimming together in the serene waters of the public garden pond. But as the spring approached, Mrs. Mallard began to feel restless. She knew it was time to find a safe and peaceful place to raise their family. "Quack! Quack!" she said to Mr. Mallard. "It's time for us to find a home for our ducklings." Mr. Mallard nodded in agreement, and together they set off on their journey. They waddled through the busy streets of Boston, dodging cars and pedestrians as they searched for the perfect spot. Along the way, they passed by tall buildings and noisy streets, but none of them felt quite right. Mrs. Mallard longed for a place where their ducklings could swim freely and safely. As they continued their search, they came upon the beautiful public garden pond. It was surrounded by lush greenery and shimmering water, the perfect place for a duck family to call "Quack! Quack!" Mrs. Mallard exclaimed with delight. "This is it! This is where we'll raise our ducklings!" Mr. Mallard agreed, and together they began to prepare their new home. Mrs. Mallard carefully constructed a cozy nest among the reeds, while Mr. Mallard kept watch, making sure their surroundings were safe. Weeks passed, and soon the eggs began to hatch. One by one, the ducklings emerged from their shells, tiny and fluffy, chirping eagerly. "Quack! Quack!" Mrs. Mallard said proudly. "Our family is complete." The ducklings followed their parents into the water, their tiny webbed feet paddling joyfully. They swam and played together, exploring their new home under the watchful eyes of Mr. and Mrs. Mallard. As the days turned into weeks, the ducklings grew stronger and more independent. They ventured further from the pond, exploring the gardens and the nearby streets with curiosity and excitement. But no matter where they went, they always returned to the safety of their pond, where Mr. and Mrs. Mallard waited patiently for them. And so, the Mallard family lived happily ever after in the public garden pond, their home filled with love, laughter, and the sound of gentle quacks echoing through the air.
Like, my channel.